Here we go. Julius Caesar, Civil War, chapter 14. Quibus rebus. Starting off in the ablative plural, which means with these things. Rebus is the things. Romam. This means towards Rome. It's the accusative. So nuntiatis. So that goes with quibus rebus nuntiatis, which means with the message of these things to Rome. Tantus. Such. Repente is the adverb for suddenly. Terror. Here's our nominative, our subject. So, tantus terror. Such terror suddenly invasus, which means entered Rome. So the message of these things made its way to Rome, and there was sudden terror. Tantus ut. So there was so much ut that cum Lentulus consul, when the consul Lentulus, or when Lentulus the consul in apposition, to the apierendum aerarium veniscent. So when the consul Lentulus had came, veniscit, for the opening of the treasury, the aerarium's the treasury. This here is a gerundive going with that, because gerunds can't take subjects, so it's got to be a gerundive. So he'd come to open up the treasury, ad pecunium qui, and ad pecunium for money probably, Pompeo, this would have to be dative, and so there would be money for Pompey from senatus consulto. The senatus, again, is genitive, which we see a lot of. So ex is the preposition, and consulto means from the planning or the decree, senatus, of the Senate. Proferendum. So this proferendum's another gerundive going with the pecuniam. So the consul Lentulus had come to open up the treasury for the proffering of pecunia, of money, to Pompey by the decree of the Senate. Protonus, which is immediately or continually straight away. Aperto sanctiore arario. We have a block of ablatives. Aperto's open. Arario is this ararium here. It's the treasury. We have a comparative, more sanctior or more revered. So immediately, having opened, or with the treasury being opened rather reverely, he profugerated ex urbe. So he fled from the city. Caesar, which is Caesar, the nominative enim. Again, it's for Caesar, adventere, yam, and yam. We never see yam and yam or yam nunc. It means right now. So adventere means coming, ad means towards, and adesse means right at hand. Eos, this would be his, going with Caesar the subject. Here's equite. Caesar, his horses, his cavalry. Falso nuntiabantur. So by a false report, nuntiabantur means it was announced, and it takes errata obliqui, which is these. This one here is a perfect infinitive, and this one is a normal infinitive. So there was a false announcement that Caesar was right now adventuraring, coming, and at esse and at hand were his equites, his cavalry. It was right there. Hunc, our demonstrative pronoun male in the accusative. Marcellus collega, this are in apposition. So the colleague Marcellus to him in the accusative, and pleriqui, which means most of or many of. Magistratus, it's a fourth declension, so this is probably a genitive. Consecuti sunt hunc. So his colleague Marcellus and most of the magistrates, they consecuted, which means they followed hunc, him, which is that him there is Lentulus, the consul. Cn Pompeius. Gnaeus Pompeius, he's a nominative. Pride eos die. Pride is the prior day. Pride die. Eos is his, so we'll have to see what that exactly means. But Pompey on the day before, ex urbe, from the city, profectus, comes from profiscor, it means Pompeius, with the US, this US goes here. So Pompey had set out the day before from the city, and there was an iter, which is a journey or a route, ad legions, which means to the legions, ad with the accusative, hababat. So he was having a journey to the legions. Quas, which by Caesare acceptus, okay, so he had accepted or received from Caesar in Apulia, which is a place. Hibernorum causa and gratia are post positives, so causa comes behind a genitive. which means for the sake of hibernation, basically for the sake of wintering, disposuited, which means they'd been placed there. So Pompey had set out from the city the day before on a route to the legions which he had received from Caesar in Apulia, and they had been placed there for the sake of winter. Okay, the delectus, which is the recruitments. Kirk as a preposition around the city. Intermittuntur. Mitto means send or omitting and lossing and all, but intermittent means there was a pause basically around the city of the recruitment. So I don't know how the best way to put intermittent in, but yeah, it just means there was a break in the recruitment. Nihil, nothing. Citra, this is another preposition. It usually means on this side or something. Capua is a place. It's in the accusative. So nothing on this side of Capua. Tutum esse, omnibus videtur. Videtur means seemed. Tutum esse is safe. Omnibus to everyone, or to all. So nothing on this side of Capua seems safe to all the people. Capuae, it's in the genitive. Primum se confirmant. So se is reflexive. So Capua, probably locative. Capua at Capua was the primum, the first, where they confirmed themselves, which means they strengthened themselves, gave heart to themselves, and collegunt. They collected themselves there, strengthened themselves. And we have the enclitic qui, which means end, and the delectum of the colonus, the colonorum. So this is the levy of the colonists, the settlers, qui who, lege Julia, by the lex Julia, which is a law, had been deductide, which means they'd been led there to settle Capua. There's Capua in the accusative, and errant's just the past passive of deducti. So, and habere instituunt. So at Capua, there was the first place where they strengthened themselves and gathered themselves, and they instituted habere to have a delectum, another recruiting of the colonists who had been deducti around, who had been led there to Capua by the lex Julia. Gladiators qui, which means, and gladiators, quos, who, ibi, there, that's the adverb there, Caesar. So Caesar is going to be our nominative. So, and the gladiators who there Caesar was having, or he had in Ludo, in the games, or in, could be a gladiator school, ad forum, to the forum, productos. Productos could be going with the gladiators because it's plural. So Lentulus, productos, he led them. Pro means forwards and ductos means leading them. To the forum, spe, in hope, libertatis, of liberty or freedom. So in the hope of freedom, he confirmed them. So he gave them some assurances or strengthened them when he led them to the forum that these gladiators, which Caesar had in the games, would get their hope of freedom. Equi and ears, these, this is plural dative or ablative. Equos attribuit. This is in the perfect sense. So he attributed horses to them, or distributed horses is to them, and say themselves, sequi, the infinitive, uset. So Lentulus brought all these gladiators to the forum, strengthened them with the idea that they would get some liberty, gave them each horses, and he useted, he ordered them, he ordered say, which is them, sequi, to follow. Quos, which would probably be these people because it's plural. Posteo, which is another adverb. So afterwards, monitus. This will be Lentulus' monitus. So Lentulus is advised afterwards, ab suis, from his own people. Suis is Lentulus' people. Quod ea res. This looks like it could be a quad clause. Quads just simply means that when something is very certain or something is a fact. So afterwards he was advised by his people that these people in this res, which is a matter, was reprehendabatur omnium, of all people. This would be reprehensible to all people, or in the judicio, in the judgment of all. These res, the circumstance of this matter was reprehensible in the judgment of all. Circum, it's a preposition which means around, families, this would be the household. Conventus campani, conventus is the assembly of the Campanians. Causa, it's post-positive to a genitive. So for the sake of custodying, for the sake of guarding, he distributed these quos people, these gladiators, around family groups. and they would watch over them. Auximo, that's a place. It's in the ablative. So Caesar progressus, that's a past passive, which means he's Caesar having progressed from Auximius. Omnem agrum picanum percurrit. Percurrit's running, and per means through. So he ran through omnem all of the agrum, all of the fields of Picenum. So he went from this place and he went through all these fields. Cuncte, which means all, Iarum, all of these, regionum. So regium, Iarum, these are genitive plurals. So all of these regions, another genitive is it? Prefectura. So all of the prefecturas, these are places, a prefecture, it's like a district. So all of these prefectures of these regions, libentimissimus, which is a superlative, most gladly or most freely, or with, and here's their animus, their minds. So it was the most gladly with their minds, or most freely with their minds, they recipiunted eum, him. They received Caesar. Exercitum qui, which is the enclitic, and the army, eos, his. So all of these prefectures of their regions most gladly received Caesar and his army, and they juvented, they helped him, again, in omnibus rebus, in all matters. Etiam Kingulo, even Kingulum, which Kingulum would be a neuter, quod oppidum Labenius. Even Kingulum, which is a oppidum, a town, Labenius is our subject, he's our nominative. Labenius has constituted this, he'd founded this oppidum, so he'd established this town. Sua qui pecunia, and with his money, it'll have to be ablative, sua pecunia, his money, he ex-edificated it. He ex-edificated. So AED, that means it's a building, so he's the one who built this oppidum with his own money, his own pecunia. Ad eum, to him, to Caesar, legati, these are the delegates, venio. So the delegates came to Caesar, quaequi, and which things improvided that he ordered, say themselves, cupidissime facturas poly, God, I wish I could speak this better, polycantor. This is actually a deponent. So, and they were promising facturos that they would do in future, most desirously, most cupidissime, whatever he had ordered, say them. Got that? So this town, which had been founded by Lemnius, and he built it with his own money, the legates from there came to Caesar, and whatever he ordered them, they would do most desirously, they promised. The milites, which are the soldiers, imperat. So Caesar has ordered soldiers, and mittunt, they sent them. So they did indeed do what they promised, that they would follow and do what he said. Interior, meanwhile, Legatio 12, this is the 12th legion, consequated Caesarem. They followed Caesar. Cum his duabus, so with these, that's a demonstrative pronoun, with these duabus, which would be the legions, with these two legions, which he now had, he profiscator, he set out for Asculum, which is in Picenum. Id oppidum, id is neuter, and oppidum is a neuter noun, so this town, Lentulus Spintha. Oh, we have a TH word in Latin. So Lentulus Spintha, tenebat, he was holding this with ex cohortibus, with 10 cohorts. Qui, who, Caesarus, that's the genitive, who of Caesar, adventu cognitu, who with the arrival, that's adventu, with the arrival cognito known, Caesarus of Caesar, he profugated, he fled ex opide from the town. Cohortus qui, and the cohorts, secum with him, abducere conatus. So this is Lentulus, he is conatusing. He is trying to abducere, which means to lead with him, these cohorts, secum, with himself. A magna parte deserted militum. Militum's a genitive. So with a great part in the ablative of the military, of these soldiers, they deserted. Relictus, past passive, means having been left there in itere, on the journey, on the route, or on the march. Cum porcus, this cum would be taking the ablative, so it's with a few men. So the magna part, the great part, deserted him, but he was left with a porcus, with a few bit. Incident, something happened, an incident, in Vibillum Rufum Missum, a Pompeo. So he happened to come across Vibulus Rufus, who had been sent by Pompey, Missum means sent, in Agrum Picenum. This is in the lands or the field, probably the territory of Picenum. Confermendorum. This is a gerundive, plural, genitive. Again, we have causa and gratia, which go behind genitive. So for the sake of strengthening man. So Pompeius had sent Vibulus Rufus into this territory for the sake of strengthening the morals of the man. Aequo, by him, factus Vibilius Curtior. So fac and Curtior go together to mean informed. So Vibilius, factus Curtior, was informed, aequo, by him, of quae res, what were the matters or the circumstances which were going on in Picenus. Milites, the soldiers abio, from him he accepted or received the soldiers, which these were the porcus, the few that were left over, and himself, Lentulus Spitha, he was dismissed, demitoed. Etem, so likewise, ex finitimus regimus, from the neighbouring regions, quas which potest he was able contrahet. So these are both verbs here, but what it's basically saying is he contrahated, he contracted or drew together a group of cohorts from Delectibus Pompeii, from the recruitments of Pompeii, likewise from the nearby regiments, and quas potest, this could be in brackets or in its own little clause, of what he was able to do. So he drew together whatever cohorts he was able to do from Delectibus. In these, Camerino Fugientum Lucium Hiram. So Lucius Hiram was present participating in the accusative. He was fleeing from this ablative place, from Camerinus, cum sex cohortibus, with 6 cohorts, quas which ibi there in presidio, in a garrison, habeverat. He had there in a garrison an excipit, which meant he received them. So he had a recruiting, and he caught up with this guy who was fleeing from Caraminus, and he took in 6 cohorts from the garrison there. Quibus coactus, another ablative plural. Well, these things are coacted, these people forced together. He efficated, he made. Now the Loeb text has 13, this one has, the Latin library text has 12. So this either means he made 12 legions, or if you go by the other text, he had 13 legions. Okay, we'll have a daily dictionary of cogo. Coactus is the participle. Assembled, brought together it means here, but yeah, it usually means either it's forced or it's assembled. Anyway, back where we... Cum his, so with these, his is these, it's the demonstrative pronoun, ad domitum ahenobarbum. So he's going to domitum ahenobarbum. Corfinium is a locative. This is a place at Corfinium. What's that in English? I don't know. Magnus Iteribus. This is ablative. So in great marches, which just means forced marches whenever you see it, he prevented. So with these, he reached Domitian Anabarbum at Corfinium by having forced marches. And Caesarem and Caesar at Esse was at hand or was there. Cum legionibus duobus, with 2 legions, nuntiat. He announced this. And this is nuntiat takes, it's a head verb, so it takes the infinitive of oratia oblique. And we're about to finish. Domitius, per se, means through himself or of his own actions, around 20 cohorts at Alba or from Alba. From Marcis and Paeliginus, which are finitibus ab regionibus, and coegerat. Coegerat means he's assembled them from these neighbouring regions, from these proper noun places.